Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? I am Dr. Joshua Isiko. I'm here. I'm going to take you through hair production. It's going to be a recorded PowerPoint for you to just get the basics of how to make hair. We'll have a practical session, but of course, a number of videos will be shared with you on the e-learning platform at Afrisa. And even this, you'll find it there. So, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. And then so hair production. In your previous learning activity, I'm sure you got some idea of what exactly hair is. And you have got an idea of what we call the preservation measures are. You've learned about many things like hair, like silage, like haylage, hydroponics, and many others. So today we are focusing on hair. My name is Dr. Joshua Isiko. I am a feeds and training expert. I run different businesses here and there. The first question is, what is hay? Literally, hay is dried forage. I'm sure you are now familiar with the word forage. Forage means anything that you give to an animal. It can be a legume or a grass. It is recommended that this should have about 14 to 18 moisture content. So you should not make it too dry or too moist. Too dry is bad and too moist is bad. Just to go back, when it is too moist, it will get molds and get spoiled. So you find your bale moist. I mean, molded and rotten. You've lost a lot of money. You think you could have stored it for 2 3 years. You, by the way, know that hair can be stored for several years, more than 1 year when it's there. If it is too dry, it will not be tested. The animals will be breaking. It even causes tongue or mouth injuries because it's too dry. So you need to be careful not to make it so dry. What are the different forms of hair? I would call it, the first one is cut and bale. It is in a bale. There are many types of bales, square, round, whichever. Either way, as long as it is compacted, baling is literally compact. So the fodder or the forage is harvested, dried for a few days in the field or in the shade, and then bale. So you compact and tie. It can be done by hands, by a box, by a tractor, depending on what you have. So the level of technology matters. The more it is compacted, the better the storage and the taste. Tractor baled hair is more compact and heavy. You find a smaller bale when it's weighing heavy, but also the advantage is that to keep moist, because they have compacted it very well. They can even load it on a vehicle and carry many bales at a go. Unlike the one which is relying on hands, people bring hands together and then you are just putting together the feed, and it's really not good. The other type is standing here. You can get the forage, you leave it in the garden to grow, in the paddock or the field, and when it is dry, you just either let animals go in and they feed, or you cut and bring it to the stable for feeding. The advantages and disadvantages of standing hair. One, it's less expensive to manage because you don't have to get a tractor, do cut, and then to keep turning around to make it dry. No, you just leave it there to naturally dry. It happens in areas that have some good sunshine for some time. When the place has a lot of rain, it's quite challenging. You may not have good standing hair. There's no need for storage. The disadvantage that it's less nutritious because it overgrows. You cannot harvest it in the right stage. You know very well, you may have studied this in your pasture agronomy course last semester, that the best stage of harvesting is when pastures are flowering, when the seeds are not too old. That's when you harvest best, except when you are making bales for like straw, rice straw, and other things. Some people are doing cross Guyana for seed production. What remains turned into hay. The quality is different from the one which is produced specifically for feeding animals. So standing hay is less nutritious in that matter. And then it cannot be stored for long because when the rain comes, it all rots and you have no pasture at all. It has high risk of bushfires. In case somebody set it on fire, you lose all that in just a few hours. And how about the cut and bale hair type of form? One of the advantages is it's nutritious. It can be stored for long, over a year, but the disadvantages are also many. It's expensive to produce, labor intensive, less, or the less risk is supposed to be an advantage. Let me shift it there for you to see. Less risk. Let me correct it. It is less risk to bushfires. Less risk to bushfires. So there's a lot of labor involved. You will see in the videos that will play that it's a lot of work. What is the biochemistry of hair? Simple. When you dry foliage to as low as 10, but I will say 14, to as low as 14% moisture content. To move this up. This inhibits enzyme activity in the forage and therefore conserves it naturally. So, and those nutrients will wait for utilization by the animal you are feeding. It could be a goat, it could be cattle, it could be horse, it could be sheep. Rarely do we feed pigs on hair. Though some hair like that of alfalfa hair can be ground and mixed in chicken feed because of the carotene that is in. For people who are targeting yellow eggs, you can do hair for chicken, and alfalfa can be put in chicken feed, especially layers if you want the yellow eggs. So don't be ignorant and think that hair is for only cattle or ruminants. It can be also be prepared as alfalfa. Alfalfa is the same as Lucerne. So it is very good in carrot and used in chicken for yellow eggs. So that's the chemistry. It's as simple as that. Yeah. What are some of the methods for drying hair? You can put on a wire. You can put on a roof. You can put on a root tree. You can use galvanized tin sheets or iron sheets. Can correct that. Galvanized iron sheets. You can use tripod stand, and then you hang in on there. You can use a tetrapod stand. Those tetra meaning 4 stands. You can use a field ritualing. You will see field ritualing is the most feasible. Supposing you have 100 acres or 10 acres of hay, carrying them to put the cut grass and you put it on a tripod stand or tetra or iron sheets, not feasible. The most feasible is field ritualing. Field ritualing means you leave it in the field and it dries naturally. What are the suitable forages? Not every forage is suitable for hay. Imagine getting maize, a maize crop on Napier with big stem and you cut it and dry it. How would it feel? Will even a cattle which has strong teeth may not afford it. So we target thin stemmed cereal crops and leguminous forages. Things like cross Guyana. Cross Guyana is the most commonly grown hay or produced hay in Africa. But you can also do bracharia, is good. You can do things like stargrass, synodon. You can do things like chikuyu grass. Those are suitable for hay because they are small. And legumes like labla, mokuna, styro, they can be folded, they are soft, so you can use them for forage. But maize and napier, please don't. It's not suitable. It's not suitable for hay because it won't be palatable. It will not be even easily fed to animals. So you will lose a lot of forage as things that are remaining unutilized, the feeders. You can't even bale it unless you are going to bale a dry one. It's quite hard to bale. Steps for making hay: harvest the forage at the recommended stage or time. I told you that harvest when seeds are not too ripe. That's when the pasture or the forage you want is suitable with nutrients, but also the time of the day. Do it in the afternoon. Do not do it on a rainy day. Do it on a dry day. If you harvest it when it is in the morning, you are harvesting it when it is moist. So drying will be hard. You are most likely to have your hay dry slowly and even get spoiled. So do it when it is all dry, not having any kind of dew or moist or not. If it has rained, don't go there because you are feeling the sun and say, it has just finished raining and I don't have stress of the rain. Let me go and harvest. No, that's the wrong time. Do it when it's dry. Afternoons are better. Spread the forage in the shade or field, depending. Previously, people were doing forage hay. It's high level of sophisticated nutrient preservation. They would cut and then carry to the shade and make sure it's not directly affected by the sunshine, but it's not feasible. Field ritualing is the best. Leave it there for a few days, depending on the sun, the strength of the sun. It can take 4, 5, 6 days, 3 days, depending on the time, the season. Turn it every day. Every day is advisable. Turn it, come and turn. Because the one which was at the bottom did not get heat enough. Turn it so that it dries. So you will see a number of equipment. Probably you also saw them when you started in farm machinery. The hay rake, there are mowers, hay mower for cutting, the hay rake for cutting, for turning. So the mower, you will see whether some of the videos have a mower. Just do as if you are slashing, but cutting hay. So how do you test that it's dry? There are two methods. You can use organoleptic methods. We'll see them in one of the videos that explains them explicitly. you can break, you can bite, you can feel the sound, many other things. You see them in the video. The moisture content, it can be measured using a moisture meter. You also see it. Let us play this video and then you see how it plays. It's not coming on very fast. Oh, yes.
Okay, so this video here is on how to know if your hay is dry and ready to bale. There's many important reasons for your hay to be dry enough to bale. Most recommend that it's under 20% for small square bales, and any big bales like round bales are supposed to be under 18% moisture. The two main reasons why you would want your hay to be dry before you bale it is, one, hay quality, so don't get moldy or spoil on you. And number two, if you're putting it in your barn, you definitely don't want it to heat on you and cause a fire. So there's many ways to test how, if your hay is dry enough to bale. You have just old tricks and sight and feel, and then now they came out with testers to test it. Some of the tests are like the bend test, twist test, and then just feeling the hay to try to tell how much moisture is in it. Some people will actually bite it and test it that way, and then there's the newer methods, which is the tester to actually test what it is. There's windrow testers, and then there's actual bale testers, to where you put it in the bale and test it, or like the one that I have, test it if the hay's like laying or in a windrow before you bale it. And then there's also the newer balers have onboard moisture monitoring. As you're baling, you can watch. So the one test is the twist test. So you take it and you get you a little bundle of hay, and you take the hay and you twist it around. And what you're supposed to do is, once you get it twisted, you let it loose.
So you see that?
So if the hay untwists and kind of fluffs out a little bit where you twisted it, it's at the right, it's dry to bale.
You see how it's twisting?
So close up of the twist test, you take your bundle of hay and you twist it around. And once you let it loose, it's supposed to basically untwist and kind of fluff out here in the middle. So you can see that kind of did. So that means it's definitely close to being able to bale. So the other way to test it is just to get the hay and kind of feel it. And it's just like feeling if something's damp or not. You just kind of feel it, and it's damp. It's just something you acquire over time to just tell if it's wet or not. So the other way to know if it's dry is basically just to look at it. Does it look dry? Is it real dark green in color yet, or is it dried out to like just a greenish tint, where it looks dry? It don't look like a fresh stand that hasn't been mowed or just mowed. So if you compare it as time progresses to see how the looks change, that's another way to test. And the other way is a sound, is to kind of
feel that sound
and listen to how it sounds. It'll rustle louder the drier it gets. So I don't know if you can hear that or not, but it's kind of rustly. So that's the other way to do it. Then there's the bend test. So if you take a piece and you bend it, and if it doesn't bend back,
Bending is
the
meaning.
spot that's not already bent. So like in a fresh spot that wasn't crimped by the hay bind or the disc bind. So you take it and you bend it, and if it doesn't bend back, that means it's dry. And then the other way is the actual moisture meter. So mine, how it works, now all of them probably work a little bit of a different way, but mine is the windrow type. So what you do is you have a 5-gallon bucket and you jam it full of hay, and then you poke the prong down in and push the run button, and then it tells you the moisture. So I'll go ahead and show you that. So you just take the hay and put it in the bucket. And just jam it full. Then put the meter down in, push the start button, and it spits the moisture back out. So right here, this spot shows 19.6% moisture. So this is a close-up of the moisture meter. This one here is the windrow type. This is actually a John Deere tester. So if you go to your John Deere dealer, you can get them, but there's other people who make them. If you look online, there's multiple other ones. Like you get your hay in the bucket, you put the meter down in, and you hold it down in, and then you push the run button. So it'll do its thing. And I don't know if you can see the screen or not, but this right here shows 17.4%. Another thing I would recommend is you test multiple spots of the field. That way you know you're good. Don't just go in and test one spot. You need to make sure that the whole field across the board, like average, is dry. Those are the main ways that I know to test if your hay is dry enough to bale. Everybody's got their own little thing that they like to do. And this probably definitely wasn't all of them. These are just some of the ones that I typically use. I go by my moisture meter probably the most, just because I feel more confident with the number that it gives me. But I also do use the other methods just to make sure that that it's good. Just as an all-around kind of approach is what I like to do. Those are the ways I know. If you do happen to know any other ones, leave some comments below and tell us how you do it. But that pretty much wraps up this video. So I think that's it, and I'll catch you next time.
So you see, it's doing it in different spots. It keeps going. You don't have to do it in one spot. It's a big field, you can see. So you can do it in different spots to be sure. You don't over dry it, and you don't want to belt when it's not dry. You also see that you don't have to use one method. Use at least 2 or 3 methods. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, I'll leave this at this and go back to the PowerPoint right away. I was at testing here. Yeah. This is where I was. We have finished that. Now the question is bedding, but before I show you that, what is the importance of bedding? Hey, why would you really bother about that? What would be the importance of bedding here? Sorry. One, to minimize space. When you just go to all that forage the way it is and you wanted to put it in your store without compacting it into a bale, my friend, if it was in an acre, how much space do you need you would use to store it? So you have to minimize space for storage. And then you have to keep that hair soft when you compact it. The inner component of the bale is soft. So even if you have opened it 5 months, 10 months, 1 year after, it will still be soft and green. So you arrest the drying, you like pause the drying because it is compacted. And then, so there is no further drying at a faster rate. And then the other importance is easier to weigh. How will you weigh pasture which is not baled? You will not even know how many kilograms you have, how many tons of pasture you have. But here you weigh every bale and you can record and even tot up and know I have 1 ton or 2 ton or 5 ton or 20 ton in the store. And you are able to plan for the farm. But if you are just there, just talk of, we have pasture, so you'll be shocked that it's not enough. So, and what would be the right quality? This is the right quality is not 10, sorry, it should be 14. The right quality of hay should be between 14 and 18% moisture content. Sometimes 10 is too dry. It's too dry. 20 is a bit moist. 14 is good. But over time, it may drop below 14 because it keeps dry. And should be greenish. If you allow it, unless for the standing hair will be brown automatically because it is there, the fuel. And it may be even too dry compared to what you want. But for cut and bale, the greenish component tries to represent minimal loss of nutrients. The sunshine reacts a bit with the nutrients. Some nutrients are lost during the drying and the raining. There's some kind of loss of nutrients, but greenish is a sign that you've preserved some of the nutrients. So the smell is not a big matter or a big thing, but the moisture content and the green, the color is very important in quality of hair. So I'll take you back to some of these. I don't know how much time I have. Let me check slightly here on the time. I started at 28, so I've used so far about 30 minutes. That means I can use this time to run this video. This video is, I'll run one of the most interesting hair baiting video, and you'll see. Probably to time will be enough. I have 10 more minutes.
Enjoy free delivery now with Jumia on all your everyday needs.
Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Today, we're going to start cutting hay, and I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube about making hay where it's basically a lot of driving around and very little talking. So I have a bit of a different approach here. I'm going to show you making hay from start to finish in a series of videos, and I'm going to treat it like it's the basic beginner's course about how the equipment works, how you time it, when to do each part of making hay. And this is the first video. There's a lot of pride involved in making hay and knowing your cattle are fed for the winter. and also a lot of stress. So I'll do some talking about that too as we do the work. First, let's talk about equipment. Buried under this pile of junk is a sickle bar mower that we used when we first started making hay. We hooked it up behind our old Super C tractor, and it did okay. But sickle bar mowers like this are difficult if the conditions aren't right. If the hay's laid over or if it's too wet, they tend to clog up a lot. They sure are a joy to cut with. They're quiet when the conditions are right, but when the conditions aren't right, they're a real pain in the butt. Although we've moved on from this old mower, we still use old equipment, and I buy old equipment at auction, and that way I don't have to borrow money from the bank to pay for it. And I enjoy fixing it up. So let's see what we use now. A couple of years into making hay, we started using hay binds instead of sickle bar mowers, and they made the work a lot easier. There's a 7-foot one back there, and this is actually a 9-foot cut one. They're both international 990s made in the early 70s. And they're reliable old machines when you fix them up. I paid about $1,000 for this at auction. I put another $300.
$1,000 is $1,000.
And it's fairly reliable now. Let me show you how it works. Just like that old 7-foot sickle bar mower that I started out showing you, this cuts with a sickle bar as well. And that's the difference between a hay bind and a disc bind. Modern mowers are disc binds where they have a set of what looks like a row of little whirling lawnmower blades to cut the grass. This is more like a giant pair of scissors or a whole bunch of scissors in a row. So these triangular, what they're called knife sections, go back and forth between these rock guards and cut the grass. Now, the big difference between this and that old 7-foot sickle bar mower are that it has this reel which turns this way and pulls the grass across the sickle bar and helps keep the sickle bar from clogging up. The grass comes in at the right position to be cut by the sickle bar. Then the other big difference between this and that old sickle bar is that this actually has a conditioner on the back, or a crimper as they started out being called. What this does is as the grass is cut, it gets forced up between these rollers, and these rollers crimp the stalks on the hay. And that crimping makes the stalks dry out a lot faster because there's a way for moisture to escape from them. And all the freshly cut grass shoots out the back of it here, and it piles it in windrows with gaps in between. The idea between that is the hay gets all jumbled up and fluffed up so that air can get through it. The whole thing is driven by the power takeoff on the tractor and one set of hydraulics which raise and lower the head. The PTO shaft comes into the machine into a gearbox here, and then there's a belt drive which drives the reel, and a chain drive which drives the rollers, and another belt drive down in here which drives what's called the wobble box, which makes the knife go back and forth. That vibrates this way really fast. Okay, now onto the tractor. This tractor was also built in the early 70s. It's an International 656. It's about 65 horsepower. It's 6 cylinders, hence the 656. It is diesel powered. It originally came with a gas engine when I bought it, but I found a diesel engine for it, and the diesel engine is a lot more fuel efficient, and it's just a lot nicer to run. I paid about $3,000 for this tractor at auction. I probably have another $5,000 into it in parts and engine repairs. So it's cheap horsepower considering what you'd pay for a new tractor. Now, the thing that is super about this tractor for haying is that it's hydrostatic drive, and it was the first large hydrostatic drive tractor. Hydrostatic is what a lot of little lawnmowers use now, where you push down the foot pedal, and the more you push it down, the faster it goes. It's the same with this tractor. You just move this lever forward here, and you go faster, and to go in reverse, you go this way. So the reason that it's so nice for haying is because often in haying, you hit a high spot or a low spot.
I'll skip that. I'll skip that and then take you ahead because
this hay is over mature, but that's the way first cutting is around here. It just is too rainy and cool to get the hay on first cutting before you get some seed heads. And in this year, the orchard grass shot up and is at least 3 foot tall, while the other grasses are still shorter and haven't bloomed yet. After cutting in, the next job is to make the headlands. And to do that, I take 4 complete passes all the way around the field. This gives me room forth, but there is no time to daydream. Cutting hay is truly living in the moment because every minute you have to have your eyes and your ears aware of what's going on. My eyes are looking at all the trouble points on the haybine. Is the knife close? You can either float the head of the haybine up a little bit to catch that little.
So you've seen that is cutting hair before you dry it. You've appreciated he has done it. I would like to say the other videos will be posted after watching this in your e-learning platform in the course. Please endeavor to look at the other videos that will teach you how you can harvest using manual, which we call a mower, and some cut using pangas or whichever. And then also search for more videos on YouTube. There are many videos. Appreciate the different technologies. We'll do what we can during the practical, but it's up to you to learn the different technologies that are there. So I would like to pause the training at this stage, and those other videos, you will know it. You will also learn on how to make a bale so that you can fabricate one from. So thank you. I hope this helps you to start off your science, reading more about hay production as one of the preservation technologies for forages. Remember the reason why when you cut grass, it regrows. When you leave it there, that's one other point. So here in places whereby you cut and bale, you get more forage out of that square meter or that acreage compared to when you leave it as standing. When you cut, what happens to these pastures or forages? They think you've taken their siblings, the seeds, so they will grow very fast. You can witness this. Some of you have compounds at home. When you don't slash, it grows and reaches the level it's not growing anymore. But when you slash all the time, it regrows and catches up to the level you cut it the other time. So cutting is one of the logic of increasing output per acreage in terms of forage production. So I recommend the form of hair which is cut and bale. It improves yields. It is good. You get the quality hair. You store it for long. It is only people who are in ranching for beef production that prefer standing hair, because sometimes if animals eat a lot, so you rather keep it there. And sometimes people have a lot of land. They are in square miles. Some of you have been in the West. The person has about 10, 20 square miles of land. He can do standing hair. They will not matter. But those of you who have small land, cut and bale is the best form of hair that you can have in an efficient way. See you then. Thank you.